Hi, so welcome back. I haven't done any videos for a while. Today we are going to work on, watch, I'll make it magically appear. Lines, segments, and rays. That's the first thing we're going to learn. The next thing we're going to learn is linear measurement. Alright, let's do a couple definitions. The first definition is segment. Here's what you would call in everyday language a line. This line right here is actually, in mathematical terms, is called a line segment. The definition of a line segment is part of a line with two endpoints. So I'm going to go ahead and put two endpoints on here. One, two. A lot of times in math you'll see a line segment that has little dots at the end. So if this is a line segment and it has two dots or endpoints right there, what would be a line in math terms? So a line in mathematical terms has no endpoints. So the way we represent that in mathematical terms, you draw a line, and then at each end of the line you're going to put an arrow. Showing the arrow means the line keeps going forever, infinity in that direction, and over here it keeps going infinity in that direction, which is why it doesn't have any endpoints. Another type of line, so to speak, is called a ray. So we have a line segment that has two endpoints. Then we have a line which has no endpoints. The only other option is a ray, which only has exactly one endpoint. So the way that looks, if you're drawing it, you have an endpoint, and the line goes straight out forever. A lot of people like to remember this by thinking of a sun ray. The sun is the endpoint, and it shoots a ray out, a beam of light, that goes forever and ever and ever and ever out into outer space. That's my beam of light. Okay? Okay, so sorry I'm kind of adjusting my computer right here. It's in the afternoon, and there's sun coming in through the windows here. Shines on my board. You can see it's pretty bright. I even have the lights off in here. I have the curtains shut, but my curtains are kind of opaque, so the sun's coming in. Anyway, I'm sure you wanted to know that. We've talked about lines, segments, and rays. And you hear my kids yelling in the background. They're playing Legos. Sorry about that. And then now we're going to talk about linear measurement. So let's talk about measuring lines and segments and rays. There's two different systems that we're going to talk about. The first system is U.S. customary. Some of the units of measurement in the U.S. customary system are the inches, represented by IN as an abbreviation, and foot, which is represented by FT, yard, which is represented by YD, and mile, which is represented by MI. Alright, the other type of system that a lot of countries use is the metric system. Almost every single country in the world uses a metric system, and whenever scientists or medical doctors talk about measuring out medicine or something, they use the metric system. Everything else in America is U.S. customary. This system came from the British Empire, and as you know, the United States came from the original British colonies that were here in America, and so we just used it. And then since then, the United Kingdom, they've switched to a different units of measurement, and eventually they got to the metric system. But we pretty much kept this. We talk about when you get pulled over, you get pulled over for going too many miles over the speed limit. Hopefully you don't get pulled over, go the speed limit. But anyway, that's a little history on U.S. customary. Let's look at the different units of measurement for the metric system. There's the millimeter, which is represented by two M's, millimeter. Alright, there's the centimeter, which is represented by cm. There's a meter, which is represented by m. And these are going from smallest to largest. Millimeter is really tiny, centimeter is a little bit bigger, and meter is about this big. Oh, and on this side, inch, that's the same thing. I'm going from smallest to largest. Inch is about the width of your thumb. Foot is about the end, the length of your forearm. Yard is, well, if you guys watch football, you guys know what a yard is. And mile, that is 4 laps around a football track or football field. All right, and the last unit of measurement is a kilometer. Kilometers are a little bit less than a mile, but they're in that range. A lot of times if you run cross country, you'll run the 5K or the 10K or the 3K or something like that. So a lot of times this is used to measure running or track events. Alright, I don't know where my tape measure went or my rulers. I have children and they have borrowed them and strategically placed them. But I went to my neighbor and he loaned me a tape measure. So hopefully this isn't backwards. Oh, it's upside down. Okay, there we go. There's a tape measure. So right there, 12 inches, you can see that's a foot. So let's talk about measuring things. Alright, so here is a drawing of a ruler. It might be easier to understand how to measure if I start out on the whiteboard. Okay, so if you have a line segment, I started drawing it already, and it goes from there to about there, you would say that this line segment is 3 inches long. Okay, most of the time in real life when you are measuring, I don't know, whatever you're measuring, not all items measure exactly on the inch. Meaning they don't end in that's 1 inch long, that's 2 inches long, that's 3 inches long. Sometimes you may be measuring something and the object you're measuring, its length is not exactly at the inch mark. So we're going to estimate here. Estimate about halfway in between the beginning of your ruler and 1. Put a little hash mark. Okay? Halfway in between 1 and 2, 3 and 4, put a little hash mark. This hash mark is not as long as the line that's at the inch. So we're going to look at here. So this would be 1 inches, 2 inches, and then notice we don't quite make it to 3, we only make it halfway to 3. So this would be known, the length of this line is 2 1/2 inches. Notice I use an abbreviation here. Sometimes you'll even see inches represented by 2 little hash marks right there. So this line would be 2 1/2 inches long. And a lot of times when you're measuring, the line or the object you're measuring doesn't even fall on the half inches. Now if you look at this line, I made it a little shorter. Let's put a little dotted line straight up so we see that this length actually falls halfway in between the half inch mark and the 2 inch mark. Okay? So this line right here ends up right there. So we're going to estimate half of our half inches is actually called a 1/4 inch. So there's the 1/4 inch line, the 1/4 inch line. Halfway in between the 1 and the 1.5 is right there, right there, right there, right there, right there, so on and so forth. So I basically had an inch, cut it in half. Then I took that half inch and I cut it in half again, and I got a 1/4 inch. Right here, let me get a different color so you can see. Right here would be the 1/4 inch line. Okay? And so 2 1/4 inches is a half inch. 4 1/4 inches is 1 inch. See? 1, 2, 3, 4. Just like 4 quarters make a dollar, 4 1/4 inches, 4/4 of an inch, if you take 4 of those, you get 1 inch. So this line segment, let's count it. There's 1 inch, 2 inch, and it's a little bit past the 2nd inch line right there, which would be 2. It's a 1/4 past. And 1, 2/4 inches. This is very important if you are going to do anything with construction or anything that has to do with measuring length. It's important to understand how to measure. Alright, here's a little example. How long is this pink line here? Starts at the beginning right there, and we're going to go over 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches. We don't quite make it to 4 inches. So we know that it's at least 3 inches long, but not 4 inches. So write a 3, and then we're going to determine how much past 3 it is. Let's count the quarters. 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. So this line would be 3 inches and 3/4 of an inch long. Okay? Alright, let's look at this line segment. This line segment starts at 1 and it goes past, so we know that it's at least 1 inch long, in between 1 and 2, so it's 1 inch long, but a little bit more. Let's count how many quarters we go over here. 1, 2, 2/4, 2/4. You guys know that you can reduce 2/4 to 1/2. So this is going to equal 1 1/2 inches long. Alright, if you're looking at your ruler has 2 sides to it. Let's see if this tape measure has it. Oh, this is only in customary units. So we're going to switch to metric now. Metric, we measure in centimeters. Centimeters are on your site, like I said earlier, if you have a ruler, you have inches on top, centimeters on bottom. Centimeters are smaller than inches. So if you take 1 inch is actually going to end up falling right about at 2.5 centimeters. An inch is a little bit more. So this would be 1 inch. And so inches would be on one side of the ruler, and then inches would be on the other. Let me fix this up. Okay? So inches would be right there. Alrighty, so let's look at these centimeters. If we have a line segment that starts right there and ends right there, we can say that this line segment is 2 centimeters long. Centimeters aren't the smallest unit of measurement for metric system. The smallest unit of measurement are millimeters. So you'll see a bunch of little hash marks going across on your ruler in between the centimeter mile markers, so to speak. So if this line segment is reduced to right there, and you put a little dotted line up and you measure, you see that this line segment is in between the 1 and 2, so it's 1.5 centimeters long. The reason why I put 0.5 is because 0.5 is a decimal representation of 1/2, and this is 1.5 centimeters long. That's how long that line is. Alright, so each centimeter, it has 10 millimeters in it. Okay? So 1 centimeter equals 10 millimeters. So basically, if you want to find out how long that is in millimeters, you just count the little dots, or the little hash marks on your ruler. So you're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So this line segment is 1.5 centimeters long, but it's actually 15 millimeters long. Alright, so that is how you do units of measurement in metric. Okay, so what did we learn today? We learned about lines, which go forever in opposite directions. We learned about rays, which has one endpoint, and goes forever in one direction. And then we have line segments, which have 2 endpoints and have a definite length that we can measure. And then we also learned how to measure line segments. So that is a lesson on line segments, rays, and how to measure line segments. Hope you enjoyed it.